Welcome back. And first of all, Tone, I love the shirt. And I wanted to
Thank
point that
you.
out to everyone, especially since we're continuing our garden talk. I can't, oh, koi. I love that.
Yeah, I got it from Eric because his dad is living in Thailand, and he
Nice.
decided to pick this up for me.
I,
So
I should let him know I'm a size medium or large so he can pick one of those up for me too.
yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Um,
Yeah, there's koi and there's palm trees and sailboats, and yeah, he saw the koi and he got triggered. Of course, he went like, "Yeah, gotta buy this one for Tom." So
yeah,
he did. Yeah, it's really nice.
perfect mix. I wanted to share
So
something that we were talking about uh off camera. And Yotone had commented on how he liked the background of my space. And I guess in a way you could say that it's staged, but for me, my intention is very deliberate. I want it to be welcoming. I want it to be comfortable. I want it to be a place that
yeah,
stimulates thought and conversation. And that is something that you can think about when you're creating a garden, whether it's a little small tabletop garden or a container garden on your patio or something across a big swath of land. And for you,
yeah.
the intention has to be, what do you want it to do?
Yes, that's it. And it's not about just putting things in. It's about feeling good and looking at beautiful things, and it's like art. That's what it is. That's how I feel it. Your environment should be an expression of your art, of your being, yourself. And
It is art.
what
It
are
is
your yeah?
it is art.
Like for instance,
Look at how many
yeah,
artists
what,
draw images of flowers and trees and plants. So
right.
obviously it's art. Very much so.
It is art, yeah. So it's great if
Bonsais.
you
Let's talk
bonsais.
about
Oh yeah.
bonsais.
Oh my God, can bonsai? Can talk about bonsai forever.
I know.
Uh,
Here's the thing I never thought about and never knew until you and I talked about it. And you basically, I didn't realize this, but it was something that I was doing when I was in Altamont. I would take plants and trees and train them. I would use lattice, I would use pieces of metal. And you had shared with me when I was there, you were showing me, yeah, you almost any plant can become a bonsai. You have to know how to trim it and sculpt it and then maintain it. And
right.
a great
Yeah.
example is the newest one that you've acquired, which fills your garden space just perfectly.
Yeah.
It is as if that space has been waiting this entire time for that very plant.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been waiting for something like that. Yeah. And it's a really nice story, but that's also the nice thing about bonsai, that every
Yes,
tree has a story. And every beautiful tree, well, every tree is beautiful in its own right, but um the most beautiful bonsai trees are the old ones. And the reason why is because like quality comes with age, like wine or ex experience in life. And if you have a very nice old bonsai tree, it looks really, really, really interesting. Well, why is that? Because the trunk of the tree looks like it it was there at the time of the prophets, if you see what I mean. Like it
yes.
tells a story. It's like you have, like, for instance, the really old olive trees of thousands and thousands of years old. At the Amorph we had one that was estimated to be 6,000 years old,
Isn't
and that's
that
older than
incredible?
just as old as Christianity. So what I'm
Oh,
trying to get at, the trunk of a bonsai
well, that's
tree,
older. At 6,000, it's three times
six
older.
thousand, older than Christianity. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same
Gosh, that's
age.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, but so and the last one I required the one you were talking about just now is I've seen this thing in the garden in the around the corner in one of in our neighborhoods. And I looked at it a couple of times already for a year, and I went like, "Gee, that looks like a really interesting tree. I would really like to make that one into a bonsai." And one day I was driving by and I saw some of the branches wither away. I went like, "Okay, this is the moment." So I went there. I went to these people. I rang the doorbell and I said, "Hello, my name is Tom. The tree over there in the corner, what are you going to do with that? Because it looks kind of sad. So if you ever want to get rid of it, call me and I will adopt it for you." And the guy said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I was just talking about it with my wife, and we wanted to get rid of it because we didn't like it anymore." I said, "I would love to adopt it. So tell me when, and I'll come and dig it out." And that's what I did. And so now I'm trying to, and this tree is 35 years old. So that was already crazy. Like it
It
has a
already comes with provenance and age and experience and
right,
oh, the
exactly.
stories it can tell because of the things it has seen.
So the only thing that I have to do is nourish it and get it back to health and try to make an interesting shape out of it that it looks really, really nice. And I'll keep you posted. It's really
Can I
nice.
can I share something real quick? And it's going to
Right?
be kind of a sidebar to what we're talking about. I love the fact that you chose the term adopt. And I think nomenclature is so important when it comes to getting other people to buy into whatever it is your objective is, whether it's a dream or a need. And real quick, an example that I think plays off of that naturally is, when I was stage managing at Disney, I was stage managing the Hoop-de-Doo Review and the Spirit of Aloha dinner show. If I needed people to come in, if I had to cover a shift, I would call or I would text someone and I'd let them know, "Hey, this is Ron. I'm reaching out to see if you want to come in and play tonight." I mean, they were coming in to work, but they were performing on one of the two most popular stage shows in all of the 43 square mile Walt Disney World Resort. So, you know, we've said before, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But I always felt
Right.
I wanted it to be fun. So by saying, "Do you want to come in and play?" And for you, saying, "Hey, if you ever want to get rid of this, I'm happy to adopt that tree." That to me is the most amazing thing. And it sounds so much better than, "If you're getting rid of this, I'll take it." Because
Yeah.
that sounds
Right.
different. We're doing the same thing, we're accomplishing the same thing,
Yeah.
and yet it sounds different. And I think also, I don't know about in the Netherlands, but I know here in the States, there are several different websites and platforms where people will say, uh, bamboo tree, free to good home, or ficus, free to good home, or hibiscus, or bougainvillea, free to good home. You just, bring a shovel in a pot, or
Yeah.
fill dirt. We have rich topsoil. Bring a truck.
Yeah.
You can always go into building your garden on a low
Yeah.
budget or no budget.
Right.
And
Right.
the cost should never be a prohibitive point for you to build the garden that you've always wanted to create.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely true. Yeah. So yeah, I started this hobby some time ago, and the funny thing is that
How long
a
ago? What is
long
some time
time ago,
ago?
like 20 years ago or something like that,
Yes.
I already was into bonsai, but back then the internet was practically non-existent. So and it's pretty hard to get information back then. Hard, at least it's more difficult, and so I never
You
got
had to
around
go
to it.
to
The
a
only thing I did was
library and get a
what?
book.
Yeah, I did.
No,
I
I'm
was like
sharing that for
that
people
kind
who
of guy.
might not possibly imagine what
Yeah,
life before the World Wide Web was like. And what
yeah,
you're talking about, and it's not that long ago. that there was not a great deal of information. Now, some people might argue there's too much, but
No,
still,
no, of
when
course
you know
not.
what you're looking for, the information is there, and now everything you
Yeah.
need to know about. I mean, this is the craziest thing in the world to me. I I was dealing with a pest and I couldn't figure it out. And someone else shared this with me. It's like,
Right.
on your phone, you have a feature, and I have an Android phone, but you have a feature where you hit the camera icon and it takes an image and then it automatically, in less time than it takes me to explain this, searches a database and tells you what
Yeah,
that thing probably is. And I took a photo
I
of this
know.
pest because they didn't know what it was. And I found
Yeah.
tons of information. It's like, okay, now I know what it is. Now I know I should get rid of it. In fact, a great story. I was I was gardening and weeding, and I found a really beautiful vine with the most gorgeous flowers in the world. And something told me, I should check this out first. And the photo,
Yeah.
this is great. The photo that was taken, and it was my wife that did it. I said, honey, I don't know how to figure this out. She goes, well, she takes out her phone. She's got an iPhone. She takes a picture, and the thing that comes up, the first thing tells you what it is. It's a Chinese invasive species. And it said, the first sentence, if you find this on your property, dig it up to the root and destroy it. If you do not,
No,
it will create, this is what it said. If you do not, it will create and establish its own kingdom. And I thought, oh my
that's true.
gosh. Okay, I'm sorry, but
I
you
know.
got to go.
How was it called? You remember? Because I know
I don't
exactly what you're
remember.
talking about.
I don't remember. I could probably find it if I looked. But it had a
It's
jagged leaf and a really pretty flower.
I know. It's the Japanese thousand buttons, something like that.
Yeah.
In Dutch, free
Yeah.
translated. Yeah, there was an item on the news the other day about because it's a big pest all over the place, also here.
So here in the
It's terrible.
States, here in the
Yeah.
States, especially in the Southeast, our big invasive species, we have two of them. Um, we have Spanish moss, and which is an air plant. But the other one, which is even worse, is a plant called kudzu. It's an ivy, it's a vine that
Uh-huh.
grows up to a foot a day in the summer. It's an Asian vine. It was brought over to control erosion, and it controls erosion, but everything else, they've
Everything
there
else as well.
there have been
Yeah,
there have
I
been
know you
multiple,
told me about this.
yeah, multiple experiments on what to do with it, but trying to eradicate it is, I
Yeah,
don't know. I think it's like trying to eradicate a flea infestation by picking each one up with a pair of tweezers. It's impossible.
exactly that. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh my
Yep.
God. Yeah, I know. Yeah, just the other day I was going through one of my flower pots. I had these little thingies and little rosette shaped plants, like these mountain growers, little thingies. How do you how do you call that? I forgot. Anyway, but one section of the flower pot, I started noticing that this little plant was withering away. I went like, what is going on? So I pulled it out, and I looked into it. And there's a whole bunch of maggots. I went like,
Oh
oh,
no.
oh my God, it gross me out. So I was like, okay, what the hell?
Maggots.
So
Ugh.
yeah, maggots. Yeah. So I put it aside because it was underneath my porch.
Yeah.
So I took it away and I put it in the back of the yard. And then when I watched a couple of times. What it appeared to be a bat who crawled into the pot and
And
hid
died.
beneath and he died there. But he couldn't see it. It was a big pile of mess with all
Right.
maggots and stuff like that.
Right.
And now I can see what it is because now it's all eaten away, and it's only the skeleton remains. It's pretty
So
funny.
you make, well, and I guess you have a decoration for Halloween if you want, but you pointed something out. You took it out, you washed it, you washed the roots, and it's probably going to be okay. When I was when I was setting up a 145-gallon aquarium, I decided I wanted live plants because I had
Yeah.
plecostomus, and nobody told me that when you buy live plants from any kind of a pet store, you should wash the roots because they're snail eggs.
Could be.
Goodness
Yeah.
gracious. Infestation. So that in most cases, depending on where you get plants from, you don't have to wash the roots. And most times, especially if you do decide to buy them from a store, they're
Yeah.
very particular and careful. The growers who
Yeah.
produce these plants and deliver them to market want to make sure you have a great experience. So the soil is new soil, it's got fertilizer in it, and everything in there is clean. So you can literally take it out of the pot and pop it where you want to. But if you dig something up out
Yeah.
of someone's backyard or you're taking something out of someone's container,
Yeah.
you might want to
Yeah.
carefully inspect the soil to make sure there aren't any other bulbs or weed seeds or
Right.
anything that you can
Yeah.
transplant and then have a headache.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it it can be the worst kind of nightmare that can start by simply transplanting one seed. That's all it needs. One seed.
Yeah. All it needs is one seed. I know. Yeah. Well, what you can do is rinse off everything with water, and then spray it with peroxide.
Yep.
If you do that, so you kill most of the stuff, and then plant it back in sterilized garden soil. You'll be
So
fine most of the
I
time.
I also wanted to share when you're building a garden, especially if you've got a little patch of land and you're going to a garden shop or you're going to some place that sells architectural pottery, or maybe you see it at a garage sale. If someone's got broken pots, broken terracotta pots or pottery, anything like
Yeah.
that, normally they'll throw it away. They don't want to keep it. Take it from them. You can use it as something around a centerpiece. If you have two or three pieces of a bigger pot and it's the same pieces, they fit together. I love taking pots that are broken, and if I have a half to three-quarters of a pot, I will set it into the ground like it's coming out of the ground, and then I will set a small potted plant inside it and let it grow naturally out of it. I love doing things like that because
Okay, good.
you're recycling and reusing something that otherwise is going to just get discarded and tossed into into a landfill. Plus, another thing to think about is if you're potting something in a giant pot, those pieces of terracotta at the bottom are great because it'll stop the soil from going through, and terracotta absorbs and holds water. So you have another
Yeah.
moisture reservoir at the bottom of your pot. There's tons of stuff, and for me, I either found this by researching or I figured it out all on my own. I love
Yeah.
I'm notorious. Even my mom will tell you, anytime I go up there, I can't help myself and I'll do some gardening. I'll dive in and I'll fix some of her stuff. But
Yeah, cool.
you could, if you looked at any number of houses that I've built gardens for, created gardened areas, if there
Mm.
are pots and pottery, I promise you, I took broken pots and created a feature out of it. Just
Yeah.
because just because it's broken doesn't mean it doesn't work. We're all in some way broken, but just like a broken crayon that can still color, we can still do amazing things. And I feel that same way when it comes to pots and other gardening things that we might look at and go, I don't think that I don't think that has
Mm.
any more life left in it.
Yeah, also with broken terracotta pots, you can also smash them up further. So you have all little bits and pieces, and you can put it on top of your another pot,
That's
or
right.
use it as
That's right.
a soil
Instead of having
covering.
this, yes, yes,
Because then the oxygen can still go into the grounds, but also it keeps the moisture in.
right, right.
So win-win.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. I
They use
agree.
it also. They also use that in bonsai as well. They
Yeah.
use broken terracotta
You know,
to
here
pot them up.
here's a thing to think about, and it's a thing that I discovered, when I lived in Davenport, my house there, I started building a garden and I wanted to build it down a little, and I started digging and I started finding these beautiful river rock that were pretty sizable in their circumference. And then I dug a little further and I found black river rock, really expensive, shiny black. I'm digging this stuff up, putting it into pots, rinsing it out. And I had an instant garden bed cover for many of my pots and my garden walkways. And it turned out,
Cool.
because where I lived was a pretty old part of that city, that house had been around long enough that they had a personal landfill in the back corner of the property. And I started digging it up one day, and I found old bottles, medicine bottles from the 50s and 60s, and some milk bottles. I thought, oh, these are.
Nice.
And here's the thing to think about when you're building your garden. Anything you want can be a focal point, whether it's a container garden or something bigger. Things that you find, you can
Yeah,
create a theme around those things. I
yeah.
love taking, I'll take leftover pieces of flooring, like when someone puts a floor in, and I'll cut it into a door shape, and then I'll build a little patio platform for it, drill a hole, put on a small pull knob, and now I've created a fairy door. And then you mount that against something. Super
There you go.
simple.
Instant results. Yeah, it is. Why
Yes,
not? If you like that, create things, you never know where it might end up. It might be
agreed.
something really, really interesting.
I agree.
Okay, yeah.
Don't be
I
don't be
can relate.
afraid. Don't be afraid to
Yeah,
be creative, even if you think you're not, because
yeah.
you're going to surprise yourself.
Also, what I really, really wanted to say is that um, we came across this little topic the last time that we were talking, because there was this thing about being closer to nature if you were in the garden.
Yes, yes, I
It
remember.
does make a lot of sense because, a lot of people go like, I hate dirt on my hands, and I hate this and I hate that and I can't do it. Well, everybody can do it first. And second, if you put your hands in the dirt and you start gardening, like feeling the actual plant and the soil, and that also gives you a certain feeling. And when I was younger, I never knew. And when I came into this house that I'm living right now, the backyard was a complete mess. A complete mess. So I had
I would
to
love to see a
rearrange it
photo
all.
of that. If you have any pictures, man, that would be
I
a
gotta,
great photo.
I would have to try. And but the point is that when I started doing actual physical working in the garden to recreate what I had envisioned, then that was the first time that I felt what it was to actually feel the dirt and the living, working this soil and stuff like that. That was really therapeutic. It
Yes.
was, and it kind of opened this whole new world for me. And I don't want to be like this guy, that goes like, "Oh yeah, ooh, ooh." It's not like that at all. It just made me feel more in tune with nature, and I don't mean that in a transcendent way
No,
or
but it's
or
okay.
anything floaty or hippy dippy.
It's
It's not like
okay.
that
No,
at
it's
all.
okay to mean that in a transcendent way, because these
Yeah, I know, but it's
these
not.
plants and trees generate energy.
No, yeah, well, of course, but it opened up this whole feeling of well-being for me. But it's the same as like everybody likes swimming, right? You know any people who like don't like swimming? Because being in the water gives you it is this
It's a
this
connection.
feeling of, yeah, connection and tranquility, like peace of mind.
Hmm.
There's something about water, not only to clean yourself, but
Right.
also being in water. And it also I'm convinced that it has all to do with uh, with being part of nature, because
Yes.
water is
I
a life giver.
we're both there. They both allow us to connect. And
Yeah.
there's a great there's an arborist and a forestry researcher and expert. Her name is Suzanne Simard, and she did a TED talk on trees and how they communicate, and that the information superhighway you're walking through, when you walk through a forest or a park or a grove or a copse or a stand of trees, is
Yeah.
happening underneath your feet. And the roots and the way they communicate with other members of a similar species is fascinating. And that energy, like I said in a previous episode, that energy translates into reaction from the plants and a reaction to us and what we're doing. People who are growing things and play classical music get documented better results out of the plants and the flowers they're growing versus
Yeah.
those who
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
play rock and roll music.
Yeah, interesting. I heard that too. Yeah. But what I do know, of course, is not only interspecies, it's not only one species and the other species the same ones,
Yep.
but you also have this symbiotic relationships
Yes.
with plants and roots, and they thrive
There
better
are,
with certain fungi that
yes,
live in the ground,
they're
and they
all
need each other.
beneficial. It's
It's
a,
all interconnected. So
symbiotic. It's a
symbiotic.
symbiosis. Everybody's benefiting
Yes.
from everything else. And
Yeah.
Suzanne Samard, I encourage everybody, if you're even remotely interested in what happens in a forest, you should watch this TED Talk. Her last name, I think, is spelled Simard, but I learned something really fascinating. And once she talked about it, it was an aha moment. And it's that in
Yeah.
any forest, you have mother trees. You basically have these massive trees that are sentinels looking out over the forest and kind of marshaling everyone else, not only on how to grow, but where to grow. And that to me is fascinating. Like you said, it's this symbiosis. There's a need for everything. And if a tree is sick and not doing well, then all of that moisture goes back into the roots, into the ground. The tree dies, it
Right.
falls over, and now it
Right.
feeds everybody else.
Right. Well, what's interesting is that you have people who say, "Well, I'm not a plant guy or I'm not a plant person," but everybody's a plant person because you can't live without them. Have you ever eaten vegetables? I don't know. It's
Right.
something you have to do. If you don't, you miss certain nutrients if you don't.
And
And
there's so many that you
also,
can grow.
yeah, and genetically, we're also interconnected. Everything is so.
Yep. I
So
going
yeah,
going
I don't
back
know.
going back to what you said about the first time you were handling the roots and digging and getting it's funny if I'm working on my Maserati, I hate getting oil under my fingertips. But when when I'm digging, uh that's a joke in case no one caught that. But when I'm
Of
digging
course.
and working around dirt, I'm all about, because I almost think when you're done working in the garden, the act of using whatever
Yeah,
you're using to clean your nails to get the dirt out from under, that's part of the contemplative period that comes after working in the garden, where you get to think about what you did, what you accomplished. Did you hit all the check boxes on all the things you wanted to do? It's
right.
amazing what you discover. And I know more than once I went into a garden to do
Mhm.
a couple of things, and I wound up getting distracted or side railed, and I started doing other stuff, and it turned out the finished product of the thing I didn't set out to do was far better than the thing I was going to do in the first place.
You're right. Became a totally different experience, an unexpected experience that you didn't see coming. That's what you mean. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yes. And also water. Water in a garden. What's a garden without water?
Water
I don't know.
features. I am a
Nothing.
big I have only ever built all the gardens I built. I think I only ever built two gardens that didn't have water features. Every other
Yeah.
garden has had a water feature. In fact, and I love this as a congratulatory gift to some old friends. They
Yeah.
had a miracle child. They wound up having a son, and they didn't think it was possible. And I said, I'm going to build a garden, and you'll be able to
Right.
to tell Anthony Jr. this garden was built the year you were
Yeah.
born. And he is 27 now. That garden is still there and the
Yeah.
water feature is still there, which I think is really cool.
Really?
Yes.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is cool. Okay.
So so I
Well,
would I would
I do.
say go ahead.
Yeah, well, I kind of regret that I broke down the old garden that I used to have, but on the other hand, it's okay. I did it, and like I said
Yeah,
before, never regret, no regrets.
no. Well,
Should have
everything's a
never,
transformation and
but
you're building a tea
yeah,
house.
I love my garden as it is right now. It's
Yeah,
really good. But the old garden was
I
really
agree.
something else.
I
And
agree.
I had a couple of setbacks with my pond. It leaked, and some fish died. And I was kind of fed up because, hey, everybody, we're only human. So I kind of got fed up with the whole thing. And then I took everything out, and I went like, oh my God, what did I do? And then I had to incorporate another pond in my garden. I just couldn't help it. And we both went like, are we sure what we are doing here? Do we really want to get rid of our water in our pond and our koi
No.
fish? And we just couldn't do it. So then we decided to put it
The
back in.
the
What do
garden
you
you saw
know?
in the garden you saw in Altamont was the third
Yeah.
iteration of a garden I was creating. And when I decided I
All right.
wanted a slightly bigger koi pond, I didn't stop digging until I got almost to just above my chest. And I went, oh, I guess that's deep enough. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
I was
it
like,
was. Yeah,
do I need it
yeah,
that deep?
yeah.
No.
I remember that. Yeah, I
But
remember that. That
but
was funny.
it was worth it.
Yeah,
So I would say to
yeah,
everybody out there who's listening, if you have even 1% of an interest, 1% of wanting to
yeah,
do a garden, any kind of garden, do it. Do it. And if it doesn't work,
yeah,
don't give up. Try another way because there's nothing more satisfying than watching the things you plant come to life. There's nothing more satisfying than if you're
right,
growing food, being able to eat the food that you're
right,
growing. There's nothing more
right, right,
satisfying than creating a garden with a water feature and seeing
right.
animals come around it. So
Yeah,
just do it. Just do it. There's tons of information out there, information that Tone and I
yeah,
did not have when we started our gardening journeys of passion.
yeah, right. Exactly. And also, well, and if you want to make a pond, make a pond. Do not make it like this little itty bitty little piece of water because it's going to give you problems and you're going to hate it in the end because
Yes.
you will never be able to make a functioning water biotope. It
All
doesn't work. It's too small.
all the
You
information
need a
I
yeah.
agree.
You
All
need
the
body of water
information
too.
is
Yeah.
out there. All of the information is out there.
Yeah.
And don't feel necessarily you've got to build a pond right away with fish. You don't. You can do that. You can do that later. Make your first water feature just a water
Yeah.
feature, and it can be something small. But I promise you, when you do it, you're going to go, "Ooh, this is nice. I think I need something bigger." Because that's what happened to
Yeah.
me. I went from a fountain to a 1,000-gallon koi pond.
Right. Yeah. And that's basic. You
Yes,
need
it is.
if you do a small pond, it will disappoint you always because it's too small. You can't. It turns green and there's algae, and your fish are gonna die because they will suffocate because of all the shit that comes into it. But anyway, you can read it all. You can look it
Yes.
all up. And,
Yeah, let us know
much
as I've
information
said
comes.
before,
Yeah.
share your photos, share your thoughts. If you're running into any challenges, share those too. Because we have
Yeah.
a little bit of insight and either we can tell you based on our own experience or we can point you in the right direction. But don't talk about it, don't think about it, just do it. Honestly, I I have a
Yes.
few hobbies, but my number one hobby when people ask me is I love to garden. I love to create things and I love when the space tells me what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm working on my Japanese tea house right now.
Yep,
Just this Saturday, yeah, last Saturday, I was sanding my pillars for I bought round trees like
right.
stems, trunks,
Yep.
just raw trunks, and I sanded them down. So that's step one, and I put the
We'll have
foundation.
photos.
So yeah,
we'll have photos of
Nope.
that for you folks as well. Like I said, the closing title sequence, if I haven't said yet, the closing sequence for this particular show, this episode will have images as well of gardens and of projects past and projects present as well as ongoing. But
Yeah.
as Tone always says, if you like our show, and even if you don't, he never says that, I do. You should.
Yeah. We'll share it anyway. That's fine.
That's right.
That's
Share,
good.
click,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your family friends, tell your friends of your family. And
And,
let's
the weather outside is terrible, so I can't wait for it to get better. And then we're gonna do a walk around in my garden,
there
just
you go. I'm looking forward to
being
that.
outside. Yeah, I would love that. And
Ladies,
then show you some bonsai.
we're going to see that. We'll have photos
Yeah.
for you folks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for joining us, for listening, for watching, and hopefully maybe learning a thing or two. It's not
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
primary objective, but if it happens, we're glad. And we will see you on the next one. Again, click like,
Until next
subscribe,
time,
tell your friends. Like,
share,
yeah, Tom said until
share,
next
like,
time.
and
So
share. Yeah.
later.
Later. Bye.